Hello, my name's Katie and welcome to this tie-dye with me video. Now unfortunately I hit the wrong button and didn't show myself opening the kit, but here it is after the fact, so just pretend that it's new and pristine and unopened. So the kit came with 5 different colours of dye. Now there were 5 or 6 different colour combinations to choose from, but I chose the pastel colours of course because I love pastels. Inside the kit there is an instruction sheet, some packets of powdered dye, 5 different colours. There was a whole bunch of rubber bands. There are some rubber gloves which I neglected to use, which you'll see later on. And there were 5 squeeze bottles, 1 for each colour of dye. Now they each came with some powdered dye already inside the bottle. There were a lot of different techniques to choose from on the instruction sheet, which was great. It was hard to decide, they all looked like fun. So now I'm just choosing the colours that I want to use to start off with. I'm going to choose some pink dye, some blue and some purple for this first one that I'm doing, and I'll put the others away. Now I'm using this lid from a storage tub to catch any dye drips and stop them from getting on the table. So firstly I need to fill each of the bottles up with water. So I've filled the bottles up with water and now I'm just giving them a shake. And oops, oh, the dye is leaking out of the top, but that's okay, I'm wearing an apron, that's what aprons are for. So I'm going to put the backing sheet from the kit down to stop the dye from leaking out onto the table. Now I recommend that you wear gloves because that's the right thing to do. But you know what, I'm an artist, so I don't need to wear gloves. I don't care if my hands get dye all over them. It's pretty normal for an artist. Now the instructions didn't say this, but I did see on some online tutorials that you should put down a wire rack to put your fabric on top of, so that the dye that runs down through the middle doesn't get it all muddied up underneath. Now for some reason I'm wetting the fabric, which we'll find out later you're not really supposed to do. But I guess this is a trial and error kind of thing when you don't read the instructions properly. So the first technique I'm going to try is the plain scrunching technique. That seemed the easiest, so I'm going to start with that. And there I am showing it to you even though you can't really see it, but you'll see me doing it in a second. I chose a few different things to tie-dye today. 4 pieces of plain fabric, 2 are cotton and 2 are a cotton polyester blend, and also a t-shirt. So I'm scrunching and scrunching and scrunching and checking the instructions and scrunching some more. I'm a bit confused because the fabric doesn't seem to be scrunching down as tightly into a scrunchy shape as it shows in the picture. So I'm just going to scrunch some more and try and just get it scrunched right down there. Alright, that'll have to do. Here goes! I'm trying to screw the top off the bottle, but actually it's not a screw top, it just pulls off. So there you go. Now I'm starting to squirt some dye onto the fabric, and oh, it's pretty satisfying actually, seeing the dye come out and colouring the fabric. I'm not really doing it in any particular sort of pattern, I'm just doing it all over to see what happens. Now I'm going to go in with some blue. And the blue is a really strong blue colour, like that's very satisfying. So today is a lovely, nice sunny day in Melbourne, Australia, Southern Hemisphere, in the middle of summer. So I hope you're enjoying being in my garden with me. Now I've turned the piece over and, oh, got some dye on myself, never mind. Now I'm going to go in with some pink on the bottom, which is now the top because I flipped it over. The next step is to wrap up the fabric in a piece of plastic wrap, or Glad wrap as we call it here in Australia, because you need to keep it damp while it's curing. There I am, just wrapping it up into a nice little parcel. There's my first parcel. So the second piece of fabric has been soaking in the water all this time. Just giving it a squeeze. And I'm going to do the scrunching method again on this one and see what it does as a wet fabric, not a dry fabric. Now, quite a lot of dye had run down onto the tray and into the corners of the tray while I was doing the first piece, and I'm the kind of person that doesn't like to waste anything. So I got a spoon, and now I'm just spooning that dye onto my piece of fabric. I've sped some of this up because otherwise the video would be well over an hour long. And spooning, spooning, spooning. It's quite a lovely blue colour actually. Now I'm going to go in with some pink. Now I'm going to go in with some purple. I love colours, but I think purple is probably one of my favourites. That and maybe green. Pretty much any pastel colour I do like. What are your favourite colours? So now I'm going to wrap this piece up in Glad wrap as well, plastic wrap, sorry. And I'm having a little bit of trouble because it's a breezy day, even though it's lovely that it's nice and breezy in the sun. It's not so good for dealing with plastic wrap. But I'm trying to make a good go of it. Yep, the struggle is real. Yep. Okay, no, that piece is not happening. Let's try again. Well, now the cutter on the box is broken, so the struggle is getting even more real. But I finally made a nice parcel out of that one, and there we are. Took a bit of effort. Okay, now on to the most exciting one, the t-shirt. So this is a t-shirt that's already pink, but it's a little bit boring, and I thought it would be a good candidate to spice up. Now I'm wetting it again, which again, not a good idea, don't recommend, but we'll find out why later. Now with this one I'm going to try the swirl technique, which is a little bit more of an advanced technique, so we'll see how we go. You're supposed to twist it into a twisty thing, but also try and keep it as flat as possible. And I found this a little bit difficult because it kept wanting to bunch up into a cake rather than a pancake, let's just say. But I am trying to keep it as flat as possible. Alright, twisting, twisting. So now I'm going to go in with a few rubber bands. You put on 3 rubber bands that divide it into 6 sections. I hope you haven't been looking at the weeds in my garden. Excuse the weeds. Alright, there we are. It's still not very flat, but it's done. Okay, now I'm going to break out a new colour, this nice beautiful pastel green, which I've filled with water, and now I'm just going for it. So some more pink. So the idea with this technique is to fill up each of the 6 sections with colour, trying to avoid where the actual rubber bands are. Going in with some of that gorgeous purple. Look at that, that's beautiful. And some of that custom mix dye, let's just say, that ran into the edge of the tray. Alright, that's done, so I'm now going to cover up that pancake shape parcel in plastic wrap. See how the dye didn't penetrate through into the bottom? I'm a little bit concerned about that, but I'm just going to carry on and see what happens. Now I'm going to try a stripy effect on this next piece of fabric. So I'm just scrunching it up into a long sausage. Now I'm going to take several rubber bands and wrap them around at intervals along the length of the sausage. Oh, it's starting to get really breezy now. My instructions are nearly blowing away, even though I put a few rocks that I found in my garden on them to keep them from blowing away. This is the first video I've done with a voiceover, so if I sound a little bit strange, that's why. Alright, so we've got the sausage shape happening now. It didn't fit on the tray, so I put it in a circle shape so that it would fit. There. Alright, going in with some blue first of all. Now I found that the fabric was so scrunched up that the dye didn't really get in between the folds, and I was a bit concerned about that. But at the same time, I didn't want to squirt too much dye on because I didn't want to overuse the dye and waste it. According to the box, this amount of dye is supposed to be enough for 30 projects, but I think they would be 30 pretty small projects, to be honest. Which one? Pink, purple? Oh, I'm not sure. It is pretty satisfying though, watching that dye go on and watching the fabric change colour. Okay, now I'm going to wrap this one up in plastic wrap. Why I don't go and get a pair of scissors, I don't know. Alright, I have a pair of scissors now. That's at least one step of progress. The next piece of fabric is another one of the poly cotton blend, and I am wetting it again. Alright, so there's so much dye collected in the edge of the tray now that I'm just going to try and soak it all up using that piece of fabric, because I hate to waste anything. I'm just going to get rid of the tray now and give it a good going over, press it all in with my hands. And it's soaking up that nice, oops, I got a little bit of dye on the table, don't tell anyone. It soaked up that blue colour really nicely. But what I'm going to do is go in with some purple to give it a little bit of interest. So just squirting and scrunching it on. Oh, my hands are all covered with dye. Oh well, I'm an artist, it doesn't matter. And there are my 5 parcels of tie-dyed items, all wrapped up nicely. Now I need to wait 6 to 8 hours for them to cure. parcels after 6 hours of curing. Actually, husband had the genius idea of putting them in Ziploc bags to help stop them drying out, and I think that was a really good idea. So now I need to rinse the dye out of each one. So just taking the rubber bands off, I didn't cut them because, again, I don't like to waste anything. Now, not much dye actually came out when I rinsed them, which I was quite surprised at. But that's a lovely, subtle, but definitely there, stripe effect. Now I'm going to do the most exciting one that I've been waiting for, the t-shirt. Wow, that looks amazing. This is the one that I did dry, and it had the most dramatic effect. It's also a piece of pure cotton. This one is again a piece of pure cotton, but I did it on wet fabric. The effect is a bit more subtle, but you can still definitely see all of the colours distinctly. And this is the last piece that I did by just dipping it into the tray. It's a bit bluer than in the photo, but as you can see, not much of an effect at all. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and you'll visit again for the next one.